The plan wasn't spur of the moment. I had been thinking about it for months, agonizing over every detail. It started when I found out about her affair, a secret that unraveled everything I thought I knew about our marriage. The discovery wasn't dramatic. No lipstick on a collar, no hotel receipts, no steamy text messages left on her phone. It was her best friend, Sarah, who let it slip over too many glasses of wine one evening. She didn't say it outright, but the insinuations were there. The long hours, the mysterious work trips, the late-night meetings. Sarah thought I already knew. She looked shocked when I didn't. The confrontation with my wife, Lisa, was anticlimactic. She denied everything at first, of course. Then came the anger, the tears, the excuses. It was just once. It didn't mean anything. I didn't want to hurt you. Each word felt like a hammer blow, shattering what little trust one had left. I stayed, initially for the kids. Emma, 7, and Liam, 4, were too young to understand what was happening. I didn't want them caught in the middle of a war they didn't ask for. But as the months passed, I realized staying was slowly killing me. Every glance at her felt like betrayal. Every touch felt cold. So I made a decision. Lisa worked long shifts at the hospital, often gone for 12 hours at a time. I used one of those shifts to execute my plan. I had the locks changed first thing in the morning. The locksmith didn't ask questions. He just did his job. Next, I went to the bank. I had been quietly moving money into a separate account for weeks, but today was the final withdrawal. I emptied everything, savings, checking, the emergency fund. Back at the house, I packed what we needed: clothes, toys, documents, photos. I didn't take much, just enough to start over. The kids thought it was an adventure. I told them we were going on a trip, somewhere new and exciting. They didn't ask why Mommy wasn't coming. By the time Lisa got home, we were gone. I left no note, no explanation. I didn't answer her frantic calls or texts. I blocked her number, deleted her from social media, and vanished into the night. I didn't do it out of spite, though I'm sure she thinks so. I did it to protect myself and my children from the chaos she brought into our lives. I wanted a fresh start, a chance to rebuild without the shadow of betrayal hanging over us. Some might call me cruel, heartless even. But sometimes, the only way to heal is to walk away and never look back. The first few days were a whirlwind of emotions and logistics. I had to think several steps ahead, making sure Lisa wouldn't be able to track us down. I changed my phone number, deactivated my social media accounts, and used cash for everything. The kids and I stayed in a modest motel on the outskirts of a small town, far enough away that no one would connect the dots, but close enough for us to settle quickly. Emma was curious. "Where's Mommy?" she asked that first night as we unpacked our bags in the small, cramped room. "She's busy with work, sweetheart," I said, trying to sound casual. I hated lying to her, but the truth was too heavy for a 7-year-old to carry. Liam didn't ask questions. He was too busy playing with the toy cars I'd grabbed from his room before we left. I spent the next few days finding a place to rent. The small, 2-bedroom apartment wasn't much, but it was clean and quiet. It had a tiny yard where the kids could play, and it was in a neighborhood where no one would think to look for us. The hardest part was creating a new life from scratch. I had to find a job, enroll the kids in school, and piece together a sense of normalcy. Thankfully, I had enough money to get us through the transition. I'd worked hard for years, contributing to the joint account Lisa and I shared, and I had no guilt about taking what was rightfully mine to start over. But even as I focused on building a new life, the fear lingered. Lisa wasn't the type to let things go easily. I knew it was only a matter of time before she started looking for us. And when she did, she wouldn't care about the reasons why I left, only that I took the kids. One evening, as I tucked Emma and Liam into bed, my thoughts drifted to Lisa. I wondered if she'd come home that day to find the locks changed, the house empty, and our accounts drained. I imagined her fury, her panic, her tears. A part of me felt guilty, but another part, a larger part, felt justified. She had broken us first. I was just finishing what she started. Weeks turned into months, and we began to settle into our new routine. The kids adjusted surprisingly well. Emma made friends at her new school, and Liam loved the playground near our apartment. I found a job at a local auto repair shop, something I'd done years ago before my life became about keeping up with Lisa's career and dreams. For the first time in years, I felt free. But that freedom came with a constant sense of vigilance. Every time the phone rang or I saw an unfamiliar car in the neighborhood, my stomach knotted. I knew Lisa wouldn't give up easily, and the thought of her finding us kept me up at night. And then one day it happened. I was walking Emma home from school when I saw a car I didn't recognize parked near our apartment. My heart sank. As we got closer, the driver's side door opened and Lisa stepped out. Her face was a mixture of relief, anger, and determination. "Where are they, Mark?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Where are my kids?" Emma froze beside me, clutching my hand tightly. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice filled with confusion. I didn't have an answer ready. I had imagined this moment 100 times, but now that it was here, I felt paralyzed. Lisa stepped closer, her eyes locking onto mine. "You had no right," she said, her voice cracking. "No right to take them from me." The calm life I had built started to unravel in that moment. I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I pulled Emma closer to me, her small hand trembling in mine. Liam, thankfully, was at daycare and oblivious to what was unfolding. "Lisa, keep your voice down," I said evenly, glancing at Emma, who was staring up at her mother with wide, confused eyes. "We can talk about this, but not here. Not in front of her. Don't you dare lecture me about what's appropriate," she snapped, her voice sharp and full of fury. "You took my children, Mark. You drained our accounts and disappeared. Do you have any idea what you've put me through?" I swallowed hard, trying to keep my composure. "I had to do what was best for them," I said, keeping my tone measured. "You broke this family, Lisa. Not me." Her face twisted with anger and pain. "You don't get to decide that. You don't get to take everything and run like a coward. They're my children too." Emma tugged on my hand. "Daddy, what's going on? Why is Mommy mad?" I crouched down, forcing a smile that I hoped didn't look as strained as it felt. "It's okay, sweetie. Mommy and I are just talking, that's all. Why don't you go inside and draw me one of your pictures? I'll be there in a little bit." She hesitated, glancing between the two of us, but eventually nodded and hurried toward the apartment. I waited until she was inside before turning back to Lisa. "I didn't want it to come to this," I said quietly. "But I couldn't stay. Not after what you did." Lisa's expression shifted, a flash of guilt crossing her face before the anger returned. "I made a mistake, Mark. One mistake. And you think that justifies tearing our family apart?" "It wasn't just one mistake," I countered, my voice rising despite myself. "It was months of lies. Of betrayal. I couldn't trust you anymore, Lisa. How could I stay in a marriage like that?" She took a step closer, her eyes narrowing. "You think this is about you? You think you're the only one hurting? What about Emma and Liam? Do you have any idea what it's like for them to wake up one day and not see their mother? To not understand why she's not there?" Her words cut deep, but I held my ground. I did what I thought was best for them. I wasn't going to let them grow up in a home built on lies and resentment. "And you think this is better? Running away, tearing them from their home, their friends, their mother? How is this any better, Mark?" For a moment, I didn't have an answer. Part of me wondered if she was right, if I had let my anger and hurt cloud my judgment. But then I remembered the sleepless nights, the way she had looked me in the eye and lied over and over again. I couldn't go back to that. I wouldn't. "I'm not going to argue with you here," I said finally. "If you want to talk, we can figure out a time and place. But I'm not letting you drag the kids into this." Her jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought she might lash out. But then she took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging slightly. "You're not going to get away with this, Mark. I'll fight you. I'll do whatever it takes to get them back." "Do what you have to do," I said, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. "But I'll do whatever it takes to protect them." She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger, sadness, and something else I couldn't quite place. Then, without another word, she turned and got back into her car. The engine roared to life, and she drove away, leaving me standing there, my fists clenched at my sides. I knew this was far from over. The battle had just begun. The days after Lisa's visit were tense. I couldn't shake the feeling that her sudden appearance was only the beginning. Every knock on the door or unfamiliar car parked nearby sent my heart racing. The kids, thankfully, seemed unaware of the storm brewing around them. I did my best to keep things normal, school drop-offs, bedtime stories, and weekend trips to the park, but my mind was always elsewhere, anticipating Lisa's next move. And it came sooner than I expected. One evening, as I was going through the day's mail, I found an official-looking envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a summons to court. Lisa was filing for custody. My stomach dropped. I had known this was a possibility, but seeing it in black and white made it real. She wasn't just going to let this go. She was coming for the kids, and she had the legal system on her side. I spent the next few days consulting lawyers, trying to understand my options. The consensus wasn't good. Taking the kids and leaving without notifying Lisa was going to work against me. It didn't matter that I'd done it to protect them or that I believed she was unfit. The court would see it as parental alienation. The lawyer I eventually hired was blunt. "You'll need to prove that staying with you is in the children's best interest," she said. "That means documenting everything, why you left, how you've been providing for them, and, most importantly, any evidence of Lisa's behavior that shows she's not fit to be their primary caregiver." The thought of dragging our dirty laundry into court made me sick, but I had no choice. If I wanted to keep my kids, I had to fight. As the court date approached, I started gathering evidence. I went through old bank statements, text messages, and photos, looking for anything that could help my case. I even contacted Sarah, the friend who had accidentally let Lisa's affair slip. She was hesitant to get involved, but after some coaxing, she agreed to provide a statement. The day of the hearing arrived, and my stomach was in knots as I walked into the courtroom. Lisa was already there, sitting with her lawyer. She looked composed, almost serene, but her eyes were cold when they met mine. The hearing was grueling. Lisa's lawyer painted me as an unstable, vindictive father who had uprooted the children out of spite. He emphasized my unilateral decision to leave, the disruption it had caused in the kids' lives, and the financial strain on Lisa. My lawyer countered with the reasons for my actions: Lisa's betrayal, the toxic environment it had created, and my efforts to provide stability for the kids. I could see the judge taking it all in, his expression unreadable. The worst part was when Lisa took the stand. She spoke about how much she loved the kids, how devastated she'd been when she came home to find them gone, and how she'd spent months searching for us. Her tears were real, and I knew they would sway the judge. But as I listened to her, I couldn't help but feel anger bubbling beneath the surface. She was playing the victim, conveniently leaving out her role in the collapse of our family. When it was my turn, I told my story as honestly as I could. I talked about the affair, the lies, and the impact it had on me and the kids. I explained why I'd felt the need to leave and how I'd done everything in my power to create a stable, loving environment for Emma and Liam. The judge listened carefully, asking a few pointed questions. When the hearing ended, he announced that he would review the evidence and issue a ruling in a few weeks. The waiting was excruciating. Every day felt like an eternity as I second-guessed every word I'd said in court. I tried to stay strong for the kids, but the uncertainty was eating me alive. When the ruling finally came, my heart was pounding as I sat in the courtroom, Lisa a few seats away. The judge's voice was calm and steady as he delivered his decision. After reviewing the evidence and considering the best interests of the children, I have determined that custody will be awarded to joint custody, the judge declared, his voice firm but impartial. The children will reside primarily with their mother, Lisa, with Mark retaining substantial visitation rights. This arrangement ensures both parents remain actively involved in their lives. The words hit me like a freight train. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady myself. Primary custody to Lisa? My chest tightened as I imagined Emma and Liam living with her, away from the stability I had fought so hard to provide. Lisa sat a few feet away, her expression a mixture of relief and vindication. She glanced at me briefly, her face unreadable, before turning her attention back to the judge. "Mr. Walker," the judge continued, addressing me directly, "your decision to take the children without notifying their mother was deeply concerning to this court. While your actions were not malicious, they demonstrated poor judgment. However, I also recognize your efforts to provide a safe and stable environment for your children. This ruling reflects my belief that both parents should play a vital role in their upbringing." The judge outlined the specifics of the arrangement: alternating weekends, shared holidays, and mandatory co-parenting counseling sessions for Lisa and me. He emphasized the importance of putting the children's needs above our grievances. After the ruling, Lisa's lawyer approached me with a professional nod, but Lisa herself lingered as I gathered my things. For a moment, I thought she might say something, but she turned and walked away without a word. The drive back to my apartment was silent. Emma and Liam were with a babysitter, oblivious to the outcome that would soon change their lives. When I walked through the door, Emma ran to me, her face lighting up as she held up a drawing she'd made. "Look, Daddy. It's our house with a rainbow over it," she said proudly. I knelt down, taking the picture with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. I love it." Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the court documents. The ruling felt like a loss, but it wasn't the end. I still had time with my kids, time to show them love, stability, and what it meant to be a parent who put them first. Over the next few weeks, Lisa and I navigated the new arrangement with tension and awkwardness. The counseling sessions were strained at best, filled with forced civility and unspoken resentment. But gradually, a fragile truce began to form. Emma and Liam adjusted better than I expected. They were resilient, finding joy in the time spent with both of us. I focused on making the most of every moment I had with them, creating memories they could carry with them no matter where they were. One evening, after dropping the kids off at Lisa's house, she stopped me at the door. "Mark," she said, her voice hesitant. "I know you think I don't deserve this chance, but I'm trying. For them." I studied her face, searching for sincerity. "They're all that matter, Lisa. As long as they're okay, I'll find a way to be okay too." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. Our wounds were still raw, but for Emma and Liam, we were learning to coexist. And in the end, that was what mattered most. Months passed, and life settled into a rhythm that, while not ideal, was workable. The kids adjusted to splitting their time between two homes, and I focused on making my days with them count. We turned my small apartment into a space full of love and laughter. Friday nights became pizza and movie nights, and Sunday afternoons were reserved for trips to the park or baking cookies. Co-parenting with Lisa remained challenging. Our communication was strictly logistical, text exchanges about school schedules, doctor's appointments, and pickup times. The counseling sessions, while awkward at first, forced us to confront the deep wounds we had inflicted on each other. Slowly, the sessions began to thaw the icy tension between us, though trust remained elusive. One afternoon, as I picked up the kids from Lisa's house, she lingered at the door. Her expression was softer than usual, almost hesitant. "Mark," she began, folding her arms across her chest. "I wanted to say thank you for sticking to the schedule and keeping the kids' routine steady. They've been happier lately. I think they're adjusting." I paused, caught off guard. "It's not just me," I replied. "You've been trying too. They see that." She nodded, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago, the woman I had believed in before everything fell apart. It was a bittersweet reminder of what we had lost and what we were trying to salvage for the sake of our children. As time went on, Emma and Liam began to ask more questions about the past. Emma, now 8, was particularly perceptive. One evening, as I tucked her into bed, she looked up at me with her big, curious eyes. "Daddy," she asked, "why don't you and Mommy live together anymore?" The question I had been dreading finally came. I took a deep breath, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Well, sweetheart, Sometimes grown-ups have a hard time being happy together. But that doesn't mean we don't both love you and Liam very much. She frowned, thinking it over. Was it because of the fighting? I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. There were some arguments, yes. But it's not your fault, okay? None of this is your fault. Mommy and I just decided that it was better for everyone if we lived in different houses. She nodded slowly, as if weighing my words. But you still love us, right? I smiled, leaning down to kiss her forehead. More than anything in the whole world. She seemed satisfied with that, curling up under her blankets. But her question lingered with me long after she fell asleep. I knew that as the kids grew older, the questions would become harder, the truths more difficult to navigate. Meanwhile, Lisa and I found a fragile rhythm in our new roles. We started attending parent-teacher conferences together, sitting on opposite sides of the room, but presenting a united front for the kids. We even managed to share a few moments of genuine conversation, mostly about Emma's blossoming love for art or Liam's newfound obsession with dinosaurs. One evening, after a school play where Emma had proudly recited her lines as a tree, Lisa and I found ourselves walking to the parking lot together. The kids ran ahead, laughing and chasing each other under the streetlights. They're happy, Lisa said, her voice soft. They are, I agreed, watching them with a smile. And that's all that matters. She glanced at me, her expression unreadable. Do you think we'll ever stop feeling like strangers? I considered her question for a moment. Maybe not strangers, I said carefully. But probably not the way we used to feel either. She nodded, a flicker of sadness in her eyes. I guess that's fair. We stood there for a moment longer, watching the kids climb into her car. As she drove away, I felt a strange mix of emotions, grief for what we had lost, but also a sliver of hope for what we were building in its place. Life wasn't perfect, but it was moving forward. And for the first time in a long while, that felt like enough.